Welcome to Engineering Culture, where we discuss how to build a culture through teamwork, accountability, and competitive greatness with thought leaders, that is coaches, superintendents, principals, all of those things. We are Engineering Culture. Okay, we're here with another episode of Engineering Culture with Omaha Athletic Director Adrian Dowell. I will call it Omaha like I always call it instead of the other part.
Like, right. I appreciate
the hyphen name is gone.
Officially branding wise.
Yeah. So I have an array of topics I want to discuss. I want to have a little fun, but I also want to, get to some serious stuff. So let's just start with the serious stuff first.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
What is the definition of collegiate amateurism in 2025?
A lot different than it was in 2024 and 23 and 1956, right? Like the reality is college athletics as an industry, amateurism, it looks a little different in this new era. So starting July 1st, whether you like it or not, whether you're uncomfortable or comfortable, like things are evolving in real time. So, we've got to pivot as an industry and really evolve what the meaning of amateurism is, and especially at the highest level of college athletics, Division I. Like the reality is now resources are now even more so than usual going directly into student athletes. And with that, the definition of amateurism now means a lot different than what we were traditionally used to.
Yeah. At a school like Omaha,
Yep.
how do you compete with the dollar amounts that are floated out there that people talk about? That some of it's probably true, some of it's probably made up. But how do you kind of stay the course and compete with that to remain successful and have successful programs?
There has always been a gap in resources,
Yes.
right? It doesn't matter if we're talking about 1950s or now,
Right.
right? Like there's the haves, there's the okays and have-nots, right? Like that's not going to change, right? Like at the end of the day, what you've got to focus on is the neighborhood you live in, right? Yes, we compete at Division I level. It's a top of the food chain in intercollegiate athletics, but we're also competing versus our peers, right? Competing versus our peers in the NCHC, which is a really diverse conference, right? You've got Power 5 schools, FBS, FCS, 1 AAA, D2, D3 schools, right? And also our peers in the Summit League. So we've got to figure out what does it take to be successful versus the peers we compete on a day in, day out basis to position us for success. And, for a number of reasons, including being in Omaha, which I think is one of, if not the top college sports market in the entire country, like we've got some advantages, right? Like we'll figure this out.
Yeah.
I'd rather have a stab at putting resources together to position us well for sustainable success, even in this new era in Omaha, than any other place.
You've done, throughout your career, you've done a really good job of building resources or finding resources, raising funds. Yeah. You've hundreds of millions of dollars that you've been responsible for. What does that look like at Omaha? What does that task look like at Omaha and for the future?
One of the refreshing things about being at UNO is one of the things I figured out pretty quickly is dollars go further.
We can stretch out.
I know that. And again, as we talk about what's going to happen next, I will tell you, being at a state public school in a city like this that has a low price point, it's a huge advantage.
Yeah.
Right. Think about, for example, if we get into the weeds, the cost of a scholarship at UNO is a lot less than some of our peers, and certainly some other peers even in our market.
Yeah.
Right? That gives you advantage to play the money ball game resource-wise as we move forward in this new era. So, yeah, you mentioned it, my background is certainly resource generation.
Yeah.
It's probably why I got the job in the first place. Certainly I feel comfortable doing it in this market than any other place I've ever been. And we're going to swing, right? And we're going to generate resources, and we're going to do whatever it takes to position our student athletes or coaches, these sport programs, for the same success they're already having, if not more, even though we're transitioned to a little bit of a different time.
What is the definition, or how do you define a winning culture? You've been around winning cultures basically everywhere you've been. It's different at Omaha maybe than Creighton or West Virginia or even when you're working for the NCAA.
Yeah. I think it's happening.
Yeah.
You see this pivot in mentality with the organization that I have I'm fortunate enough to lead, where you don't just become like surprised when you start winning, right? It sort of becomes the expectation.
Right.
Like when we take the ice, when we take the court or the field, like we expect to win now because we've been there. We've started to win championship games. We've started to make NCAA tournament appearances.
Right.
Now we know it's not just about the chase. Now we've got a target on our backs, right?
Right.
And so that's the winning culture. More importantly, the winning culture to me is the process along the way. Right? There's so many crazy things going on in college athletics or society in general, like stuff that we can't change, right? I can't change this settlement. I can't change what's happening in society. We can't impact what's happening election-wise. All these things impact us day to day, but all we can do is focus on what we can, right? Control the things that we can control. And what I'm really proud about, at least our organization, is I really think we've bought into the process, right? Like, let's put ourselves in as good a position possible to succeed sustainably moving forward. Because winning's hard, so hard. So hard.
At any level.
At any level, but especially this level. But once you win, like sustainable winning, that's a different project, right? So I think we're just starting to figure it out as an organization. It's been really fun to see this evolve in real time.
You brought up the settlement, the house settlement thing, which isn't really even finished yet at this point. Like there's a bunch of moving parts still. And
you want to know why I'm bald, by the way? What's your excuse?
Working with the people I work with. No, it moves, it shifts. Every day there's something new comes out. What does that look like? how's it going to affect Omaha?
It's going to impact everyone.
Right.
It's certainly going to impact us.
Right.
That's one thing, right? You can't get in this habit of feeling sorry for yourself when there's macro impacts, right? Like at the end of the day, like we either sit here and complain about it, or, and I think this is going back to that winning mentality, that winning culture. When there's something that impacts macro industry-wise, like I think it's an opportunity for us. Like, why can't we use this settlement as an opportunity to get ahead of where we've even been traditionally? Like, if we can figure this out more efficiently than our peers, which we've proven we can, like, I think it's a huge opportunity for us, right? I think it's not only a huge opportunity for us to elevate the resources we're putting into our programs and obviously directly into our student athletes, but I think this is an opportunity for us to really, really build a sustainable path forward for Omaha athletics moving forward.
Yeah. So we're gonna have a little fun here.
Yep.
Who's a better athlete, you or your wife? Because your wife is a Hall of Famer. So I mean, what do we?
No doubt, I'm not gonna try to lie to you. She likes to remind me that she's the reason I got the job, and a lot of people do, right?
It's probably.
She's a pretty good soccer player,
You're right.
No doubt. And as soon as you think it's just soccer, we'll get out on the pickleball court or the golf course, and she'll remind me it's not just soccer. Right? So I'm going to give it to her.
Competitive drive never ends.
No doubt. I'll give it to her. I'll give her the nod right now. But hey, we got a long life together, right? I hope we're married for a long time, so I still have some room to kind of pass her.
You can get better every day.
No doubt.
Keep working.
No doubt.
Why basketball? What drew you to basketball? You played college basketball. What drew you to basketball? And we'll get to it, but
kind of in there by default, right? Love football, absolutely loved it. Actually pretty good at it. And unfortunately, my sophomore year, I got like my 6th concussion. So I was out. If you ask my dad, my best sport was baseball. Played baseball too. Was really good at that, but just basketball ended up being, the answer high school, and certainly going to college is what I got recruited for, and that's why I ended up doing it.
Yeah.
Right? But I would tell you, if you gave me an opportunity to watch a sporting event, I don't know if there's anything better than college football, right? Sitting on Saturday watching college football. That's probably the one sport I enjoy just consuming the most.
Yeah, that's it. I think a lot of people in the country feel that way.
No doubt.
Is growing up in Salem, Virginia.
Yep.
That's like, for people that don't, that's like the boot, right? Like the toe of the boot.
Yeah. So southwestern part of Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains. Yep.
Yeah. What was that like?
Really cool area, like gorgeous, fall. Just imagine being surrounded by mountains and foliage, right? And just great people.
Real mountains.
Yeah. Great people, and certainly I consider that home, and that's where my family still is right now. And that's the upbringing, right? That's where I learned how to be who I am, and even though I've moved around a lot professionally, that will always be home.
Yeah. What is your, I guess, core values, like the not the Omaha athletic department, but the Adrian Dowell core values? What do you stand for?
It's a great question. Speak good to other people, right? I'm fortunate. The big guy upstairs has been really good to me, and the one thing I always promise myself and to my family and to him is that if you ever got in a position to have influence over people or an organization, just to do more for others than you do for yourself. And that's what I respect the most about the people I look up to, right? Like, ironically, I've learned probably the most I've ever had just being in Omaha. And sometimes the greatest resource, the greatest gift people can give you, it has nothing to do with money or a job, right?
Right.
Just might be their time, right? And I've certainly been the beneficiary of that, and that's something I hope I never lose sight of. And as things get crazier and maybe, I don't know, my role gets bigger and let's see where we end up, like I don't want to lose sight, like, let's stay in this for the right reasons, let's do more for other people. And certainly the opportunity for me right now is doing more for student athletes. Like, I know sometimes you wish you had more time, right? But I hope our student athletes know whatever they need, like, I'm always there, always there. And I always tell them, right, even though I'm always on the phone, door shut, like, you need anything, just knock. No questions, right? We'll make time, we'll figure this out together. I think hopefully that's the guiding principle that stays in place no matter where this ends up.
Who do you look up to? Who are your mentors? Who do you reach out to with challenges?
Yeah.
Who are those people?
I don't want to name names because there are so many, right? Like, I feel like I'm one of those people who just, you really observe others, even when they don't realize you're watching them, right? That's when I learned most from people. And honestly, I probably learned the most from people when they go through challenges, when they go through difficulties. That's when I'm paying attention the most. It doesn't have to be someone in college athletics. It could be a business leader, it could be a politician. Like, I think you learn the most from people when they deal with that inevitable adversity. And I've been fortunate to have incredible people I should never have had opportunities knowing, much less spending time with, just, again, giving that gift of their time. And at some point, when you work for a lot of those people, and certainly when you have the opportunity to spend a lot of the time with titans in this community, right?
Right.
Think, for example, Howard Hawks. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you start evolving who you are as a person. You start evolving, like, your management style of how you run your organization because of all those influences coming in.
Yeah. And you worked for the NCAA.
Yep.
Basketball.
Yep.
What's maybe the 1 or 2 or 3 or 8 things that you learned the most in that role? Because it's totally different, right, than what you have.
Well, you bring up, like, who your mentors are, and I said, there's a lot. My time at the NCAA, like, I worked on Division I men's basketball staff and on the women's tournament too. But, like, on the committee, like, I'll never forget, like, you had Gene Smith, Mike Slive, Tom Jernstad, who was, like, the godfather of March Madness. Like, he was a VP at the NCAA. Miles Brand, Greg Sheehan, like, Jeannie Boyd. Like, I had an opportunity, real time, of just this kid just leaving college to work with those individuals and see how they did business, right? Like, I'll never forget, like, I'm 21 years old and I find myself in the war room. Just like I was like, oh, that's pretty easy. All right, mama made it, right? All downhill from there, right? But what an opportunity. And I will tell you, those 18 months at the NCAA, there is not a week that goes by that I don't leverage that time there, right? Like, whether it's the network, whether it's obviously implementing things you learned there, whether it's knowledge of sports and reaching out to the NCAA when you need something, and translation, how we conduct our organizations. I mean, there is not a week that goes by that time doesn't yield some benefit from us and UNO on the macro piece as well. So
you've experienced a ton. You're at West Virginia, Creighton, obviously Omaha. Is there one memory, one thing that you're like, man, that was actually, like, sweet, outside of what you just talked about? Like, is there, like, a little, maybe it's a conversation with someone or some just event?
There's a lot.
Yeah.
Someone asked me the other day, like, I think this is a question that's trending big time in our industry. Like, do you hate losing or do you love winning? It's a complicated question, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would tell you, I love winning.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I dislike losing, right?
Right.
Like in college athletics, like you are going to lose, right? Like you're going to get punched in the face,
Right.
Constantly.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing hard to being like a mid-major AD,
Right.
right? Like every week, like every Monday, you start in the corner, right? So, like if you really like losing get to you, like it can consume you, right? So the consequence of this is just my opinion. My playbook is like I enjoy the hell out of winning.
Yeah.
It's so much fun, right?
Same.
And so, well, there've been in West Virginia where we made the Final Four, a couple of BCS games at
Right.
the time, or Creighton, right? Winning Big East championships, making the first ever Sweet 16, certainly NCAA tournament appearances, some of the volleyball success, but even UNO, like at the end of the day, in the past 2 years, we've won 6 conference championships, made 6 NCAA
Right.
tournaments. We're having more success than we've ever had, right?
Right.
And more relevant than we've ever had. Playing in
Right.
front of full buildings, right? All of that means a ton. Like, I don't know if there's a favorite moment out of all of it. I just try to, in the moment when you experience that success, just because it's so hard to get there, so hard to win, much less win championships, like, I let that consume me.
Yeah.
Like, I try to enjoy the moment, and it's been fun. All those championships, all those NCAA tournaments. I mean, think of our softball run.
Right,
Year,
it was
right?
great,
Like,
yeah.
I don't know if there was anything better than that.
It was pretty cool.
And
You
I
had
hope-
a
I
lot
hope-
of people, including me, just watching the NCAA tournament.
No doubt, no doubt. Like hockey, playing frozen
Right.
face-off championship, like all those moments in real time, like those seem to be the most fun I've ever had in my life. So I hope those moments keep happening.
Yeah. What does media rights look like for a league like the Summit League or
Yeah.
the quote-unquote non-high major leagues? What's the future of that look like?
Yeah, so to be honest, I would say the situation we're in as an industry, especially over the past 20 years, we are where we are right now because of media rights, right? Media rights are great.
Yeah.
Media rights complicate things, right? But what's crazy, the biggest difference between the have and the have-nots goes back to media rights,
Yeah.
right? Like whether you're talking about an SEC or a Big Ten, and they're bringing in 60, 80 million
Yeah.
plus, right? Just tied to media rights,
Right.
or you're talking about Summit League, where I will tell you, and our commissioner has done a great job leading us through the media rights. He did a great job in the NCHC when he was with the two. Like we might make a little north of $100,000,
Yeah,
right?
maybe.
And think about that delta.
doesn't-
Right? You're
that's
talking
a
about
huge
80 million,
gap.
100,000, right?
Yeah.
That's a huge resource gap.
Yeah.
That's the gap between the higher end of Division I
Right.
and the mid majors and the low majors. It's just like the media rights piece. So, and it impacts everything. Like for us, media rights is just giving your products the ability to be consumed on the macro level, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily driven by finances at all. It's just about being able to tell recruits, like, hey, you know what?
We got this. Yeah.
We got this. Like, you're going to play on TV every game. Like, hey, there's going to be an opportunity where you get to play on national TV. Like, during the month of January, like, hey, we played on national TV, CBS twice, right?
Right.
Once in hockey, once in men's basketball. Those are huge moments, not only for kids and our coaches and certainly our athletics program, but more importantly, I think that's huge moments for the institution, right? Like, that's one opportunity where you can leverage athletics to tell the story of UNO to the entire nation, right? And at the end of the day, that goes back to kind of philosophy. What are you trying to do at the mid-major level, right? Yes, we want to win. We want to win championships. We want to be relevant. But the reason we want to be relevant, hopefully, is because we can yield some benefit to our institution. Like, I want to win so people learn more about UNO. Like,
Right.
I want our hockey program to win so people might learn about our aviation program
Right.
at UNO, right? I want their basketball team to get in March Madness, right?
Yeah.
So they learn about our Insight program at UNO. Like that's the cool thing and the mission-driven piece of a Division I athletic department at the mid-major level. And that's why I do want us to continue to experience success because that's starting to happen.
There's something that's been we talked about for years, ever since the transition to Division I,
Yep.
especially on the basketball side, at least for people like me. What would that moment, will that moment be like when the men's basketball team makes the NCAA tournament?
It's huge when any of our sports make
Yes.
the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
But yes, there's data, there's case
There's that
studies.
one,
There's
right,
case,
yeah,
like
yeah.
the reality is we've seen this proven time and time
Right.
again. When the school has the opportunity to make March Madness for the first time ever, it can be a transformational moment.
It's a boom for the school.
It usually is, right? Whether it's relevance, hopefully, enrollment, right?
Yeah, enrollment.
In the game, the process is putting yourself in position to have a chance to do that, but more importantly, when that moment happens, taking advantage of it, right? And that's something this school did a great job. Think about that Frozen 4 run.
Yeah.
Think about the benefits that yielded for UNL.
Yeah,
like
huge.
whenever that next moment happens, we got to be ready to pounce, right? Like even last year, the softball run, right?
Yeah.
Playing regional finals in NCAA. Yeah. That was a huge moment. Like seize the moment, like take advantage of it. So obviously we're putting ourselves in position to knock at the door. Yeah. Whenever it happens, like that's going to be a pretty huge moment for the institution. It's going to be a huge moment for those 70,000 alums in Omaha, right? And you're starting to see it, right? Like people are embracing the brand.
People are coming.
No doubt they're coming. They're wearing the O, but that'll be a huge moment for everyone.
In that moment, I mean, you look at case studies like FGCU, who had that run. Their enrollment just went boom, like a huge spike. Yeah. I mean, have you prepared for moments like that? How much preparation goes into that? Or do you already have like this plan?
I would say the plan's in place. Like the infrastructure's in place, right? Yeah. Probably and this goes back to me being from Virginia. The one school that I really look at is maybe that aspiration period, just because I saw it in real time. It's still yielding benefits from it is VCU. Yeah. If you remember that run.
Yeah, they're still like.
Oh my God. Yeah. And what that did for their enrollment, how that helped not only the athletic program, but just that institution, the city of Richmond.
And they're still really relevant.
Still really relevant. Like that, when that moment happens and you have the infrastructure and process in place to take advantage of it, that's what's possible. And it's not just a basketball thing, it's hockey thing, softball, that's any sport. It's like when you realize that moment where you're relevant, you got to seize the moment.
Okay, another fun question.
Yep.
Here. You said you play golf, pickleball, all that, but what's your like one thing that you do when you have a little downtime? Like, what do you enjoy doing?
Yeah. Gotta spend time with family. I'm not home a ton, so it's fun. You know, let's say you do have a weekend where, all your teams are on the road.
Yeah.
It's summer. Like, just being able to hang out with them and play dad, husband, that's fun. Certainly sports is always part of that process. Right? Yes. We're spending time. That's my little guy. I get home, all he wants to play is like hockey. Right? like my daughter wants to go outside and throw. Right. So doing that with them is kind of the hobby right now.
Just the time.
Just time, right? I don't know if I have time to have a hobby. I'm not saying I'm busy or anyone. Like the reality is when I do have free time, if I'm not spending time with the family, I'm probably a little misguided.
I feel the same way. It's just whenever I can just anything, if it's pick up from school or whatever it is, just spending that family time. So how do you balance that? Because I need help with that. Help me.
Once you figure out that answer, let me know. I am not great at it.
No.
And I don't know if there's a lot of people that are. I certainly need to be better at it, right? Like the reality is, it's really tough to be a good AD and be a great husband and a great dad. It's not easy. I have not figured it out, right? And certainly there's a lot of guilt that comes with that, right? If you're spending time with one of those groups and not with the other, you feel like you should be spending more time. But that's something I got to make progress on. I think I'm doing a little bit better than I used to. That's something I got to continue to make strides in, for sure.
All right, Adrian Dowell. Thanks, man.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
A Hurrdat Sports Network production.